In this practice, show that the velocity v sub x is slower than the speed of light when both the frame velocity u and the particle velocity v sub x prime are slower than the speed of light. So the question said if v sub x and u is slower than speed of light, then v sub x is slower than speed of light. We'd like to show that this. Then we can use the Lorentz velocity transformations. Velocity transformations is a v sub x prime is expressed v sub x minus u over 1 minus u v sub x over c squares. So in these frames, we have S frames, and S dash frame is moving with respect to the S frames with a velocity of u. So this is the Lorentz transform formations. From these equations, we could derive another expression. Is a v sub x equal. Actually, we could derive this equation is a v sub x dash plus u over 1 plus u v sub x over c squares. Maybe this equation is much easier to use for these questions. And then it's better to actually introduce the new variables. So we are going to use this equation v sub x equal v sub x prime plus u over 1 plus u v sub x prime over c squares. We introduce new variables v sub x tilde is a v sub x over c, v sub x prime c, and then all the velocity is normalized by the speed of light. Then equation 1 becomes v sub x tilde equal v sub x tilde prime plus u prime over 1 plus u v sub x. So this is a much easy calculation to use for these questions. So at first, case 1, v sub x prime is larger than 0 and the u is also positive. So in this case, from the equation 1, we can easily recognize v sub x tilde is also positive. Then you could consider the following functions: 1 minus v sub x tilde prime u tilde minus v sub x plus u tilde. These equations can be expressed 1 minus v sub x dash 1 minus u, because from the original conditions we have these conditions: v sub x dash is slower than speed of light, and u is slower than speed of light. So from this v sub x tilde is lower than 1, u tilde is lower than 1. So from this condition, you can find this is positive numbers. So from these equations, you could find that okay, this is positive. 1 plus b sub x prime tilde u tilde is smaller than larger than the v sub plus u. So this means 1 is this question is smaller. So this is the b sub x tilde. So b sub x tilde is smaller than 1 but larger than 0. So this is actually equal to the c b sub x 0. So b sub x is smaller than the speed of light. These are case 1. Now case 1. Both b sub x u is a positive. And the case 2. Simple one. We are going to use b sub x is a negative and the u also negative. So in this both velocity is negative. Then b sub x tilde is becomes minus b sub x plus u 1 plus u b sub x tilde prime. So from these equations, b sub x is a negative quantity. You can find. So if you take a absolute quantity, it's a b sub x plus u over 1 plus u b sub x prime. So this is the same result for the case 1, very same case 1. So from these equations you can find if you consider the absolute value is smaller than 1. So from this one, actually b sub x is negative quantity minus 1. So this one, so it's gonna be 0. B sub x is a negative quantity but larger than the minus c speed of light. Okay, still the speed of light is a maximum speed. Case 3. B sub x is a positive, u is negative, so opposite direction. Then b sub x tilde is a b sub x prime. Instead of a negative, positive, it becomes a negative u over 1 minus absolute value u b sub x tilde prime. So we have two possibilities. When b sub x tilde is larger than u, then b sub x tilde is positive. So 1 minus b sub x prime u minus b sub x prime minus u. I'm going to consider these quantities. This is going to be 1 minus b sub x prime 1 plus u. This is a positive quantity. So from this ones we can find b sub x tilde prime minus u over 1 minus b sub x u tilde. This equation. This is actually b sub x tilde. This is 0. So from this ones, b sub x is smaller than c. And then b sub x is smaller than u. Opposite case. Then in this case the b sub x tilde is negative quantity. So this becomes minus b sub x. Absolute value is b sub x tilde prime minus u 1 minus u b sub x prime. So this case b sub x prime is u minus b sub x prime over 1 minus u tilde b sub x tilde prime. And then we consider this quantity 1 minus u b sub x tilde prime minus u tilde absolute value minus b sub x. So from these quantities 1 minus absolute value u 1 plus b sub x tilde prime. This is positive quantity. Okay. So from these equations we can find 1 u minus b sub x tilde over 1 minus u tilde b sub x tilde prime. This quantity. This is actually equal to b sub x tilde. This is larger than 0. So from these equations, you can find 0 b sub x minus c.